In this demo, we'll learn how to return correct status codes with our responses. We're back in our cities controller and we need to return a response with a specific status code. Currently, we're still returning a JSON result here. JSON result is an action result which formats the given object as JSON. It also implements iActionResult. iActionResult is actually implemented by all action results. It defines a contract that represents the result of an action method. But this JSON result, well, that's not always what we want to return. First of all, APIs don't necessarily work with JSON. They should return what the consumer asks in the accept header of the request, if that format is supported. But more importantly, it's not always simply a bunch of JSON you want to return. We just learned about the importance of status codes. We need to be able to return a response with a specific status code. This is possible with JSON result. You can set a status code property of it. Yet this can become quite cumbersome. There's a better way. ASP.NET Core contains a set of built-in helper methods on controller base that all create an iAction result. There's OK, which returns an OK result which implements iAction result. There's noContent, which returns a noContent result which implements iAction results. And all of these things you see here are all helper methods to create action results. A few other common ones are not found when a resource is not found, or bad requests when a request is malformed. So let's use these helper methods. Let's start with getting a city. We know what we want to see if all goes well, the city DTO returned. So instead of JSON result, we return an action result of T. T in this case is a city DTO. For that, we need to import the cityinfo.api.models namespace. So we look for the city on our data store and return it using an OK helper method. This will return the city with a 200 OK status code. And we can get rid of returning our JSON result here. One of the advantages of writing our code like this is that we're no longer tied to JSON. But there's more we can do. If the city isn't found, we should return a not found, so a 404. We can now effectively write code that does that. So we check if the city to return is null, and if it is, we return a not found. Otherwise, we continue with returning the city with the OK helper method. If an exception that isn't handled happens, the framework will automatically return a 500 internal server error. Now we can also change the action to get cities. First of all, we change the return type of the action. It is now an action result of IEnumerable of city DTO, a list of city DTOs. And instead of returning a JSON result, we use the OK helper method to effectively return the cities. There is no not found here, because even an empty collection is a valid response body. The resource, cities, was found. It just happens to be an empty list. And an empty list does not warrant a not found. Alright, let's build and run this. And let's try that request from the previous demo again. We can still see that it used to return a 200 OK with null in the response body. Let's send it. This time we get back a 404 not found. The response body contains some more information on this 404 not found error. Just to make sure everything still works, let's get a city that does exist, the one with ID 1 for example. And there we go, that works. And let's try getting all the cities. And that still works as well. But there's more to returning the correct status codes than what we've seen in this demo. Imagine that you're working with child resources, for example the points of interest for a city. What's the correct status code to return if the parent city isn't found? And what is the correct one if the parent city is found, but the collection of points of interest is empty? Let's check that out in the next demo. Returning child resources.